He is a retired colonel. He's running for the Senate. He is a citizen candidate for the Senate in Louisiana. You have Mary Landrieu, who is a complete fraud, who has a multi-million-dollar home in Washington, D.C., which is perfectly fine. But then she puts her father's house, her mother's house, as her residence in New Orleans. So she's a fraud. And she's a liberal, a radical liberal who voted for Obamacare and everything else Obama wanted. Then she goes home every election cycle and she pretends she's a moderate and she's independent when she's none of those things. Then we have the Republican Cassidy, who's basically in the back pocket of the Washington Rhinos. And he wants to be the nominee, and an enormous amount of money is flooded in there to support him. And then we have a Reagan conservative, a constitutional conservative by the name of Rob Maness. And Rob Maness is a good man. He's a patriot. He has served this country, and he's running as an unabashed conservative. Rob Maness, it was an honor to endorse you. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thank you very much for having me on. We're very grateful, especially for your endorsement.
Well, tell me something, Rob. Let's grab this right where it is. This Ebola situation here with the open border and not blocking these flights from certain countries where this is an epidemic. What do you think about that?
Oh, Mark, it's the CDC has got to figure this out. They have got to overcome their inability to admit they don't know something and get their arms wrapped around this infection very quickly, or they'll never get ahead of it. We've got to put a travel ban on those Western Africa countries right now. We've got to do screening at every port of entry, and we've got to get protection for our nurses that they use, like at Emory and other special infection control units. It's just unacceptable. And we now have 4,000 troops in the area, 4,000 U.S. military troops, a gross misuse of resources and unnecessary risk of the lives of those troops. And believe me, they're going to be in hot zones, I guarantee it, and we're going to lose some, and that's just unacceptable to do this.
It's amazing to me. And the president does this, Rob Maness, who is the conservative running in the election on the first Tuesday in November in Louisiana. The president does this without consulting with Congress. He does this without any hearings. He does this without any appropriation. He just does it. I mean, shouldn't Congress be much more vocal about what goes on?
Absolutely, but the Thursday before the congressional recess, so they could come back here and get on the campaign trail, they passed a continuing resolution budget that gave him a blank check to fight an undeclared war in Syria and Iraq. It's just absolutely unacceptable. I told my two politician opponents last night in public at the last debate that they should be in Washington demanding a special session of Congress to debate that issue and decide how it's going to be paid for. My goodness, we're at $17.5 trillion in debt, and we don't need to be fighting undeclared wars without a strategy, without any objectives, without a definition of what success is, and without an exit strategy. All we're doing over there is plinking away at individual targets, and it's having zero effect, and we see the enemy's already encroaching on Baghdad and the Baghdad airport. And we're losing a war that we haven't even decided to enter yet.
How do you differ from the rhino corporatist supported Republican Cassidy?
Well, I think last night was a prime example. He said that we were asked a question that each of us was a yes or no answer. Do you believe that health care is a fundamental right? And he said yes, I said no, and Mary Landrieu said yes. How's that for a difference?
Well, it's a big difference, because if it's a fundamental right, then we have an obligation to pay for it.
That's right, and a doctor can be obligated to provide that service without getting paid for it.
Well, I mean, what does that mean? So hospitals and doctors and nurses and technicians and bookkeepers and janitors are forced to provide services for people because they are providing a fundamental right, but they have no fundamental rights, those who are employed, correct?
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous to make a comment like that.
It's absolutely ridiculous, and it just shows a disdain in the political establishments, whether it doesn't matter what party they're in, for the Constitution and for our liberty. We should be sending people to Washington that are going to fight for our liberty, to protect it, not restrict it or take it away. Make sure that we have the conditions for businesses to be prosperous in this country, which is how America has been successful, and to have the certainty of a strong United States, both outwardly and inwardly. And the Ebola, getting back to the Ebola thing, it's going to start. It is affecting us inside our borders now, and we can't get our borders secure. We've got this infectious disease that the CDC's underestimated and can't get it under control. And if it gets out in our country, or God forbid in South and Central America, where conditions are much more amenable to spreading it, we are in for a really, really big fight and a possible pandemic.
You're listening to the last conservative standing right now who's up for election. You're listening to Rob Maness. He is running against the Republican establishment and the Democrat establishment. He is a citizen candidate. He is an honorable man. He's a vet. He served as a colonel. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, my dad was a hard-nosed Air Force Master Sergeant. I'm one of three brothers. We traveled around with my mom and dad. He was a career Air Force enlisted man, and I enlisted at 17 myself. Rose up through the ranks, went to college at night, became a commissioned officer and an aviator, and I've got aviation experience in air refueling, in B-1 bombers and combat, and in intelligence aircraft, and commanded a squadron. I've worked in the Pentagon on the Joint Staff as an operations officer. I was working there on 9/11, the day the country was attacked by the fanatical Islamists that have declared war on our country and our way of life. And have 5 kids total, ranging in ages from 10 to 32. 3 of my sons are in the military. The oldest is a United States Navy sailor. We're very proud of him. And the second oldest is a U.S. Army National Guard soldier in the communications business. And number 3 is 18 years old. He's in Air Force basic training right now. He's getting ready to graduate next Friday. And we're very proud of him. And then our 10-year-old son and our daughter and her children and her husband. And we're very proud of her, too. She works in the with juveniles that have medical issues like ADHD and high-functioning autism, and runs facilities to help them. So we're very proud of all of them. And
Now, why should people vote for you?
Because I'm going to protect their liberty, ensure their prosperity, and ensure the certainty of a strong United States of America that's focused on keeping America safe, that keeps our promises to our allies, that keeps our assurances up to our allies, and fights for freedom in our own country, and stays on the Constitution. You know, I tell people all the time, I'm not on the right side or the left side. I'm in the middle. I'm on the Constitution. I believe in the principles of the Constitution as it's legally amended, the one that's in the archives, as it says in Article 5, and it's got the legal amendments to it. That's what I swore to support and defend in my oath in the military, and I've risked my life for. I have friends that have died for that. I've had to command the young Americans in war and ask them to risk their lives for it. We must stand on that, and stand on that in the middle and not compromise it. Now, we can find solutions that work with anybody, whether they are Democrats or Republicans or Libertarians or Independents or whatever. But what we can't do is compromise on our Constitution, and that's what my promise is. And that's
if people want to support you and donate to your campaign, and people in Louisiana want to help you otherwise, where do they go? What's your website?
They go to robmaness.com. That's ROBMANESS.com, or gomaness.com, GEAUXMANESS.com. And you can volunteer. You can sign up for our social media program. It's how we're getting the job done, getting the ground army built, and getting the team ready to get the boat out on November 4th.
All right. I hope people come out and support you. You're the real deal. It's an honor to endorse you, and we want to wish you all the best, Rob.
Well, thanks, Mark. And before I go, I just want to say thank you. You mentioned that I'm a Reagan Republican, and you're the only person that's out there day in and day out that's reminding and educating us about not who Ronald Reagan was, but what he believed, and I've tried to not model myself to be like him, but to understand what he believed in his ideas, because they're so linked to America and so linked to success in America. And that's what we're very grateful for you doing every single day out here.
Well, you're very, very kind, and now I know why the Republican establishment and the leftist Democrats don't want you anywhere near Washington, D.C., because you're one of us. So, Rob Maness, I just want the public to support you and go to the they can go to Mark Levin Show Facebook, Mark Levin Show Twitter. We will link to your site. God bless you, my friend, and you take care of yourself.
Well, thank you, Mark.
All right.
You can tell people to find solutions for us, or our positive conservative agenda plans out there on our website, and we appreciate your support. And we're going to get to victory on November 4th.
All right, go get them. Thank you. And we'll be